Good morning and welcome to KCPS Homeroom. I'm Justin Robinson. Again, today is for the 3rd and 4th grade students. Hope you all enjoy class today. Let's get ready to learn with Mr. Morris and reading.
Oh, I didn't see you there. Well, I'm very glad that you are here this evening. You see, I'm trying to read this book and I can't make any sense of it. I don't know where one chapter begins and the next one ends, and after so long I get bored. If only there was some sort of organization, that would help me see everything the book was going to tell me. Every part of it, every chapter and the page, that would be really helpful. And I think I would enjoy the book. Do you know of such a thing? You do? Okay, fascinating. Where is it? There must be a list of things in the book, or a table of things, or a list of contents. That's it. A table of contents. Of course. Why did I not think of that? And it's at the beginning of the book. Okay. There it is. Now, how do I read this?
Good morning, everybody. Again, my name is Samuel Morris, and this is English Language Arts for 3rd and 4th grade. Welcome back. I heard that you just spoke with my twin brother regarding helping him out, and I appreciate you being willing to help him, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. Today, we're going to study table of contents. We're going to use that and other text features to locate information, gain an overview of the contents of a text, and make inferences about that text. So let's get started. That book that my brother was looking at here earlier looks like this. And the table of contents is found right here in the beginning. So let's take a look. Table of contents over here to the left. These long dots are going to connect what the subject matter is to where we can find it. So the table of contents really tells us two things: what and where. So the what is, well, we're going to find out to the reader. That sounds like it'll be a note to the reader. And where, it's on page 11, or in Roman numerals, the XI. Then we see our introductory chapters. The Spring Song, page 3. The Building of the Nest, page 11. The Water Birds, page 21. Birds of Autumn and Winter, page 25. How to Name the Birds, page 35. Synopsis of Families, page 43. And so forth, with bird biographies, key to the birds, index of English names, and index of Latin names. So as an overview, by looking at one page of the book that my brother was reading, what is this book going to be about? Well, we can already tell it's going to be about birds, about the spring songs of birds, the water birds, birds of autumn and winter, maybe how to name the birds, and biographies about birds of prey, my personal favorite, perching songbirds, shore and marsh birds, keys to the birds, the names in English, the names in Latin, all of that good stuff. So as an overview, remember, like we said, on one page, we're able to look at what on the left and where to find it in the book, what the book is going to be about, and where to find it. So based on this table of contents, we see an overview, and then we also get to make an inference. An inference is an educated guess that goes beyond what the text says. So even though this talks about some basic different categories of birds and some information about them, what we get to infer, what we get to guess is, would I read this book? If I saw this in the library, would I check it out? Or if I saw this in a bookstore, would I buy it? Personally, I would. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a big fan of birds, and this book is actually a book that I have at home. So I would totally read this book, but maybe you're not a big fan of birds. Maybe you would rather read about sports or cars. Maybe you would rather read a fiction story of romance or of friendship. So this book isn't for everybody, but the table of contents helps us understand what and where is happening in the book. So for our first practice, we're going to use the information below in this other table of contents for a different book to answer some questions. So we can see that the name of this book is Slippery Seals by Sam Newton, and there are about 5 different sections located on these pages. So what? Seal bodies, hungry seals, seal habitats, and so forth. And where? Well, page 3, 5, 7, 9, and 12. So let's answer the first question together. On what page would you look to find out about what seals eat? Seal bodies, hungry seals, seal habitats, seal pups. To me, this sounds like hungry seals would tell us about what seals eat. So we're going to see the what right here, hungry seals. Follow the dotted line to where? Page 5. So we're going to say page 5. Okay, what information would you find if you looked on page 7? So now we're going to do the opposite. We're going to look at where first. We're going to look at the page numbers. Page 7, follow the dotted line backwards. Seal habitats. Who is the author of this book? Again, that's going to be found at the top, or sometimes not on the table of contents, sometimes just on the front cover. But we can see from here, this book is called Slippery Seals by Sam Newton. What page would we find the glossary on? Glossary, page 12. And what is the glossary used for? So the glossary is kind of like a table of contents, but in the back. And the glossary is going to tell you what words were used, what they mean, and where they were found. So in one way, it's kind of like a table of contents, but instead of telling us general ideas, it's going to tell us about specific vocabulary words. So the glossary is like a table of contents for vocabulary words. And we already said that that would be found on page 12. Let's move on to another one. The title of this book here, if you'll read it with me, is Hurricanes. The author is Kim Brown. And we see 5 different sections with their corresponding page numbers. So same thing. Let's look at the questions. On what page would you look to find out about early signs of a hurricane? Early signs of a hurricane. The storm is coming, measuring. Measuring, no, but the storm is coming. That sounds like early signs of a hurricane, and that's on page 2. We follow that along. What information would you find if you looked on page 6? Measuring hurricanes. Who is the author? We already talked about that. That's Miss Kim Brown. What page would you find the index? Down here, 11. And what is the index used for? Similar to a glossary table of all contents, but it's usually at the end of a book. Now it's going to be your turn. So you're going to pick a book from your house or any book that you see at the library, and you can use the printable feature on the website to print out this document and walk me through the title of your book and the information that we can get just from that one page. That's going to help us gain an overview of the book and also make some inferences about what the book will be about. Let's go check in with my brother and see if he's able to get started with our help.
Thank you so much for learning with me and showing me how to use the table of contents to find the different chapters and page numbers and actually in a single page be able to know what the book will be about and if I'm interested in purchasing it. I believe your next lesson today is in mathematics, so enjoy that. But until next time, well, on behalf of my twin brother, Mr. Morris says thank you very much, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Welcome back. It's time for math. I'm Miss Aker. Let's jump right in. Remember Frankie the fraction frog? Numerator's on top, so I hop, hop, hop. Denominators down, go to the ground. Let's jump right in with Just Know It. That's the part of math class where you know it just like that. And we are going to warm up with some comparisons. You can compare all kinds of things in the world. Something might be bigger or smaller, louder or quieter. And we are going to use some symbols to do our comparisons today in math. We are going to be using the symbol greater than, and you can make the symbol at home too with your hands, just like that, almost like an alligator wanting to eat. Nom, 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 nom. This symbol says greater than. The other symbol we're going to use is less than, and it looks like this. Can you make your hand like that? Nom, 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 nom. And finally, we can also use the symbol equal for equal to. And we can just make our hands line up just like that to show that they are equal. Let's give it a try. You use your hands as the math symbols at home while I hold up the cards on the screen. Here we go. 3 versus 1. I think you know that one. Let's try the next one. 15 and 10. Okay, you could do this one. 2 plus 1 versus 2 plus 2. Which one's greater than or less than, or are they equal to? You tell me. Okay, here comes a fraction. 1/3 versus 2/3. What do you think? Here's another fraction. 1/4 versus 1/3. You got this. And finally, 1/2 versus 2/4. What do you think? Did you use your symbols? Greater than, less than, equal to? Let's check your work. 1 versus 3. 1 is less than 3 and 3 is greater than 1. Nice work. 10 and 15. 15 is greater than 10. Okay, I tried to trick you here, but you're too smart for me. Which is greater than? 2 plus 2 is greater than 2 plus 1. Time for a fraction check. 1/3 is less than 2/3. Okay, one way to think about this, would you rather have 1/3 of the pizza or 1/4? 1/3 is greater than 1/4. And finally, show me what you got for this. You got it. 2/4 equals 1/2. Nice work. Now it's time for our next part, which is figure it out. For our figure it out word problem today, we're going to do 4 things. We're going to read it, think about it, draw a model, and write a sentence to show our thinking. Are you ready? Let's start by reading. A recipe calls for 1/4 cup flour. Keyshawn only has 1/8 cup measuring tool. How many 1/8 cups will equal 1/4 cup? Okay, check. We read it. Now it's time to think. This seems pretty important that we have a 1/4 cup. We need a 1/4 cup, but we only have a 1/8 cup. So I know that that's some really important information. And I want to know how many 1/8 cups will fit in a 1/4 cup. Okay, let's start drawing our D. I'm going to use one of our models from last week. I think I'll try the area or bar model. So I'm going to start by drawing my bar. I'm going to make it into 1/4 cups. So I have 1 line, 2. If I want to show 4 parts, I need to draw 3 lines. So now I have 1/4 cup, and I'm going to label it. So anyone who looks at this knows what I meant there. But I only have 1/8 cup, so I need to show 1/8. So I could cut this in half, and now I have 1/8, 1/8, 1/8, 1/8, 1/8, 1/8, 1/8, 1/8. Now I can see that I will need 2/8 to equal 1/4. We figured that out. Way to go. But you know what? We forgot one step. We drew a model. Let's write a sentence to answer this question. How many 1/8 cups will equal 1/4 cup? 2 1/8 cups will equal 1/4 cup. 2 1/8 cups equal 1/4 cup. Now we've done all our steps. Read, think, draw, write. Now it's time for What's New? The part of our lesson where we find out what's the new thing we're going to work on today. Let's read our learning target. I can use benchmark fractions and models to compare fractions. Okay, I know some of these words. We worked on comparison today already, and we worked on fractions last week. Let's break it down. So I can use benchmark. That sounds kind of new. Let's come back to that. Fractions. I know what fractions are. Fractions are a numerator over a denominator. The denominator tells us how many parts make up the whole, and the numerator tells us how many parts we have. And models, so models we know are drawings to help us show our thinking. To compare fractions, well, we know that we can compare with greater than, less than, or equal to. And we already did fractions up here, so I'll draw an arrow. Well, it seems like the thing that's new today is benchmark fractions. So let's talk about it. Benchmark fractions are very handy. They can help us know and visualize where any number of fractions might land on a number line. Here are some examples of benchmark fractions: 1/4, 1/2, and 3/4. These are pretty common fractions. We can easily find them in our bar model here. Here's 1/4, here's 1/2, and here's 3/4. So today we're going to practice using these benchmark fractions to think about and compare fractions with one another. To get started with What's New, grab a piece of paper or a marker board and a pen or pencil, some sort of writing tool you can use to follow along. We are going to work on this word problem, and just like we did in our Figure It Out, we're going to use those 4 steps to help us make sure that we're covering and solving all that the problem is asking us. So let's write that off here to the side. R for read, T for think, D for draw, and W for write. Let's start with reading. Jamari and Dominique both got a cheeseburger and Takis for lunch. Jamari ate 4/6 of his cheeseburger. That seems important. And Dominique ate 4/5 of the burger. Who ate more? Okay, well, we read it already. Let's think about it. We want to know who has the greater, who ate the greater amount. So let's start by thinking about a model we could use. So a model that we could use is a bar model. So let's start by making 4/6. Well, I know if I want to show 6 parts, I need to draw 5 lines. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to put a J over here to represent Jamari's burger. And I'm going to make another burger underneath, even though it's not really a burger, it's a bar model representing a burger. I'm going to put a D next to it for Dominique, so I can see Jamari's and Dominique's. Now Dominique 8 4/5. So that's different. That's 5 parts. So I'm going to draw 4 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's really important that I make sure that when I'm comparing fractions, that my models are the same size, because they both had the same size burger, but one ate more than the other. Let's shade 4/6. 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's shade 4/5. 1, 2, 3, 4. As you can see in our fraction, in our bar models, we proved that this 4/5 is greater than 4/6. So we could write it like this. 4/6 is less than 4/5, or we could write 4/5 is greater than 4/6. Both are correct. Now, one thing I'm noticing here is that the numerator was the same. And when the numerator is the same, whichever denominator is smaller is gonna be the bigger amount. Think about why that is, because the parts are bigger. This 1/5, 1/5, 1/5, 1/5, 1/5, that part is bigger than these 1/6 parts. It takes more 1/6 to fit inside the same whole. So if we're comparing fractions and the numerators are the same, we can look at the denominator. And whatever denominator is smaller, it's going to be a bigger amount. The smaller the denominator, the bigger the part. The bigger the denominator, the smaller the part. Let's try another one. R, T, D, W. Eloise, Roxy, and Noah were knitting scarves. They all included the color blue. Eloise's scarf was 1/3 blue. Roxy's scarf was 3/4 blue. And Noah's scarf was 2/3 blue. Whose scarf has the most blue? Whose scarf has the least blue? Oh my goodness, there's 2 questions in here. We read it, check. Let's think about it. I see a benchmark fraction. That gives me an idea. I'm going to use a number line, and I'm going to draw my benchmark fractions to help me visualize who used the most and the least blue. I know right in the middle of my fraction, of my number line, is 1/2. Start at 0 and 1. That's my first major benchmark. Now I'm going to draw the others. I know 1/4 just like that, and 3/4 just like that. Well, that's where Roxy is, so I'm going to put an R on Roxy. Roxy is right here. She used 3/4. Well, I know that 1/3 is not bigger than 1/2. I know that it's somewhere right in here. So I'm going to put an E here, because I know that it's between 1/4 and 1/2. And now that leaves me with Noah. I know that 2/3 is bigger than 1/2. I just need to know, is 2/3 bigger than 3/4? So I could figure this out on my number line, but I want to make sure that I'm measuring and showing my model and comparing it on the same size. So just to be safe, I'm going to do what we did on the last one. So I'm going to draw my bar diagram and shade 3/4 for Roxy, and I want to make sure I do 2/3 for Noah. And I can see here that while they're really, really close, 3/4 is just a little bit more than 2/3. So I can see that 2/3 is less than 3/4. So now I know that Roxy has the greatest amount of blue, and Eloise has the least amount of blue. Let's double check our steps. We read it, we thought about it, we used two models. Let's actually write it out because we want to make sure we answer the question ATQ. So at the bottom, whose scarf has the most blue? Now, anyone who looks at our work will know exactly what we discovered using and comparing fractions on the number line and with our bar model, RTDW. Way to go on our What's New. That was some excellent problem solving we did with read, think, draw, write. And now it's your turn to try it at home. We're going to be using some fractions, some bare number fractions, to prove and show our thinking about what is greater than, less than, or equal to. So remember our learning target? I can use benchmark fractions and models to compare fractions. That's just what I want you to do with these bare numbers. You can imagine that it's a piece of pizza or that it's measuring sugar for a recipe. When you think about a real-world example, it sometimes helps you with these bare numbers. So think about what model you want to use, a number line, an area, or bar model, and think about how you can use a symbol to show which one is greater than, less than, or equal to. I can't wait to see how you do with this. I can't believe it's already the end of our lesson. And you know what that means? It's time for me to say goodbye. But before we go, I want to teach you another fun way to call and respond. Last week, we learned firework high five. Today I want to teach you something really cool. Get ready. I'm going to say cool and you're going to say way cool at home. Here we go. Cool, way cool. Great job today, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Hello, I'm Mr. Steinauer, and this is 3rd and 4th grade science. Today, we'll be talking about motion and acceleration. All you'll need for this lesson is a notebook and something to write with. That's going to help you keep track of any vocabulary that we use for this lesson, and it's also going to help you write down what you're going to do when the lesson is over. Before we get started, let's review some vocabulary from our previous lesson last week. Last week, we talked about forces. A force is a push or a pull in any direction. Forces can push away or they can pull toward. Before we explore motion and acceleration, let's first understand the definitions of both of those concepts. Now, motion and acceleration are each a process. A process is just something that takes time. And motion is the process of changing position. Position is just where something is at that moment. There's a book behind me and a book right beside it. They're in their current position. If I switched their position, then they will have both been in motion. Things are in motion all the time. Even though it seems like the Earth isn't moving, it's spinning at over 1,000 miles per hour. Everything on Earth, everything in the universe is in motion. Our bodies are constantly in motion. We drink water, and that water is in motion throughout our entire body, hydrating us. We are also in motion in our day-to-day lives. Now, this is a good time to define acceleration. Say that after me. Acceleration. Acceleration is the process of speeding up an object in motion. So if I were to switch these two books, if I were to put them in motion, if I did it really quickly, they would both have a greater acceleration than if I took my time to change their position, to put them in motion. Acceleration can only happen while objects are in motion. For today's lesson, and for the next couple of lessons coming up, we're going to learn a little bit about Sir Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton lived over 300 years ago, and he did a lot for our current understanding of science and mathematics. From a scientific perspective, he was the first to describe gravity. He was the first to theorize that sound travels at a certain speed. And, as is pertinent to our lesson, he was the first to observe and explain what he called the 3 laws of motion. Acceleration has to do with Newton's 2nd law of motion. In future lessons, we'll talk about Newton's 1st law and his 3rd law of motion. But today, as we're learning about motion and acceleration, let's talk about his 2nd law of motion. Newton's 2nd law of motion says that the acceleration, the speeding up, of an object depends on 2 things. It depends on its mass, how much stuff is inside of it, how much matter an object is made of, and on the force that's used on it. And now, let's bring it home, back to our homes, where we're going to find evidence of Newton's 2nd law of motion. You might be wondering why I have a mandarin orange and a wad of paper right next to each other. That's because I'm going to use these 2 objects to prove Newton's 2nd law of motion. Now, while they're about the same size, one of them has a lot more stuff in it. The mandarin orange is full of fruit and juice and is surrounded by a waxy skin. This wad of paper is just that. It's a wad of paper. One of these has more mass or matter inside of it than the other one. Which one has more mass? That's right. The orange has more matter inside of it. It's much thicker and much more dense than the wad of paper. So now I'm going to move this black platform. I'm going to angle it up so that I use the same amount of force on each object. So the mass of each object is different, but the force will stay the same. Which object will speed up the most? Which one will have the greatest acceleration? Let's find out. So which one of these had greater acceleration? That's right, the orange. If we watch again, we'll see that the orange rolled faster than the wad of paper. Now there were other things happening too, right? There was the force of friction that pushed back against these as they rolled down. But overall, we could see that the 2nd law of motion is true. The orange, which had much more mass and the same amount of force as the paper wad, rolled much quicker. It had greater acceleration. Now let's say we want the paper wad to have more acceleration than the orange. What could we do to give the paper wad more acceleration? Yes, we could change the force that we use on each object. Now, it's not going to make for a fair race, but this is simply a demonstration of Newton's 2nd law of motion. So if I were to take each of these objects, and let's say I lightly tap on the orange, but then I flick the paper wad. Which one had greater acceleration that time? And why is that? That's right. The paper wad had greater acceleration because greater force was used on it. Even though the orange has greater mass, there was way less force that I used on the orange. So its acceleration was a lot lower than the paper wad. Now it's your turn. Find evidence of Newton's second law of motion by comparing the acceleration of two different objects. Now we compared the force and the mass of two objects in motion. One way you might test Newton's second law of motion by changing forces at home would be taking two basketballs or soccer balls and using a different amount of force on them and compare how much they accelerate. So with a basketball, you might dribble one really hard and the other you might dribble lightly. With a soccer ball, it's just a matter of kicking them. Another way you could find evidence of Newton's second law of motion when comparing mass would be to find two relatives or two friends who are different sizes. Have them get on their bicycles and try to use about the same amount of force and see which one accelerates quicker. When you've found evidence of Newton's second law of motion, either write about it and share that with a loved one, repeat your experiment and share that evidence with a loved one, or take a video or photos of your experiment and the evidence for Newton's second law of motion that you found, and with a loved one's permission, share it on social media and tag KCPS Homeroom in it so that we can take a look at what you've done to prove Newton's second law of motion. This concludes our lesson together. It's been my pleasure having you in class today. I'm Mr. Steinauer, and I'll see you next week.
Welcome back to PE with Karina, also known as Coach K. And we have a special guest here. He's an alumni from Foreign Language Academy, which is where I teach. And his name is Torrent. And he goes to Lincoln Prep, and he's on the basketball team. And he is class of 2021. So, welcome back. In this next segment, we are still focusing on one of our health-related fitness components, which is cardiovascular endurance. So in our last segment, we went over 5 different exercises that can improve your cardiovascular endurance. Once again, what is cardiovascular endurance? Cardiovascular endurance is where your heart, your lungs, and your muscles work together while you're exercising for a long period of time. And you need cardiovascular endurance to be on the basketball team. So, in this segment, all you need is a table of whatever size. It can be small or large. And you need one plastic cup. You can find these around the house. Make sure it's plastic, not glass. Plastic cup you can find around the house, in your kitchen, or you can go to the dollar store, grab a bag or a pack of plastic cups for $1. So all you need is one, and you need a table, square table, round table, it doesn't matter. And you're gonna have your cup at the end of the table. So this challenge today will improve our cardiovascular endurance. But we're going to do a little fun way to improve our cardiovascular endurance. It is called a flippy cup cardio challenge. So I'm going to challenge me and Torin to see who can get the most points in 1 minute. The way this game goes, you grab your cup, set it at the end of the table, and you want your cup to be halfway at the end. So not fully on the table, but partially off the table where it's still standing. So in order to earn 2 flips, you have to run around the table twice, and then you'll come back to the cup, use your finger to flip. Oh. So that would be a point for me. Every successful flip that I get will be 1 point. And then I run around the table to get 2 more flips and try to get however many points I can get in 1 minute. So I'm gonna go first, because ladies first. And then Torin is gonna go next to see who can get the most points between us two. Once again, you need a table and a plastic cup. Have it at the end. So let's have Torin demonstrate what it looks like. So he's gonna run around the table twice. He was actually supposed to run around the table once. But it's okay, but I said twice. Now he earns 2 flips. Go ahead and flip. He gets another. Try it again. Okay, that's 1 point. Now he has to run around again 1 time to earn 2 more flips. Try it again. But he still has to run around. So even if you don't successfully flip the cup over, you still get to run around and earn 2 flips. So I'm gonna go first. We're gonna see how many points I can get in 1 minute. Okay, so make sure you move out the way. Make sure you have space to run around so you don't trip or fall over anything. So I'm gonna start. I'll start running around once in 3, 2, 1. Okay. Flip. Ooh. I get another. Ah! Okay. No point. Woo. 1 point. Okay. Woo. 2 points. Ah! Okay, I get another. No point. So I'm at 2. Up 3. Let's see. Come on. One more. Oh, 4. I got 10 more seconds. Up 5, 3, 2, and 1. And I got 5 points. Torin is up. Let's see how many points can he get in 1 minute. Starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. All right. He gets 2 flips. More. Oh, run around. Come on, concentrate. Come on, take your time. Run around. Yes, you can. Come on. All right, there we go.
Okay, that's 1.
No, run, go. What's that, 1?
Yeah, that's 2.
Okay, 2. Oh, 3. Come on, you got 10 seconds. Can he beat 5? Ooh, 4. Don't let him beat me. Another one. You got 7 seconds. 5. Is he gonna be 5? 3, 2, 1. Ooh. So, Tori got 6 points. Karina got 5, but that's just, luck. So I want you to try this at home. It's really fun if you have other people competing with you to see who can get the most points in 1 minute. And you can even do 2 laps around the table if you want to improve your cardio and vascular endurance even more. Or you can do 3. You can change the game however you want to make it harder or to make it easier. And you can do it with a group of people to see who can get the most points in 1 minute or however long you choose. Remember, cardiovascular endurance is where you use your heart, your muscles, and your lungs. They all work together while you're exercising, and you can exercise playing a game. There's a lot of different fun ways that you can improve your cardio and vascular endurance. And this will help you sustain physical activity over a long period of time. So this was a pre-warm-up for Torrin because he has to get ready for a basketball game, and he needs to make sure that he's working on his cardiovascular endurance to run up and down the court. So thank you, and I hope to see you next week for another fun cardio challenge.
All right, welcome back. So today we're going to be dealing with the rhythm tree, okay? So the board in front of you is dealing with whole notes, half notes, and quarter notes. It's also dealing with the same thing with the rest. Whole rest, half rest, quarter rest, okay? But with today's project, we want to go deal with the quarter note and the quarter rest, okay? And I also provided the music. So the music also has quarter notes and quarter rest, okay? And underneath you see where it says 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That's subdividing. That's making sure that every beat gets a count, okay? And where you see the little squiggly line where it's highlighted in red, red means stop, just like if you was driving. You don't play on rest, okay? So we play on the note, but we don't play on rest. So just to give you an example, a quarter note would be 1 and, 1 and. So if I did if I did 2 quarter notes and 1 quarter rest, it would be 1 and 2 and 3 and. Because I didn't play on the rest, but I still counted. Okay? So the music has everything highlighted for you. It has it highlighted in yellow and red. Red we don't play on. Yellow we do. And if you look further down the music, I took away the yellow and I left the red. Okay? Same thing. You don't play on red. And if you look further down the music, you see where I took everything away. There's no red nor yellow. Okay? That's to get you to really read music. Because when you start playing in school or outside of school, you're reading music, there's not going to be anything to give you a hint of a quarter note or a quarter rest when it comes to highlighting notes. Now, it's always good to write on your music if you want to, but always write in pencil. Never write in pen, because a pencil can be erased. Okay? So, let's try to read some of this music, and let's use some of the instruments that we made in our previous segment. Here we go. So, we're going to learn how to subdivide, and we're going to count. First, we're going to do it with our hands, and then we're going to use the cabasas that we worked on earlier in our first segment. So we're going to use these to play with, okay? We want to use the right hand and the left hand, or we may use both hands, okay? You do it however you feel comfortable, as long as you don't play on the rest. So you can alternate right and left, or you can play them both together, okay? So whatever you want to do. So mom or dad, grandma, or whoever the guardian is, if you're working with a student, just make sure that you follow what's on the music. Okay, I also written out the counts, which is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, and don't worry about the timing because we'll go over that later. Okay, so right now we just want to make sure that you can read a quarter note and a quarter rest. Later on, we'll add some music to it and we'll play this quarter note and quarter rest music. Okay, so first we want to do it with our hands. Okay. We want to clap it to make sure that we have it, okay? So remember, we clap on notes, we count on rest, but we don't play, okay? And underneath the staff, you see where I got 1 and 2 and 3 and. That's how we're going to count, okay? Later on in the music, you see where I took away the highlighted yellow, but I left the red. And then if you keep going, you see where I took everything away because I want you to be able to count without music being able to highlight it every time. When you start reading music, everything is not going to be written out like this. But to get started, I want to make sure that you understand the counts. Okay? So we're going to clap through this. Okay? Maybe we'll clap through the first 2 lines. So we're going to clap through 1 through 6. Okay? And count out loud. Okay? There's nothing wrong with counting out loud. That's just to make sure that you have it. Okay? So I'm going to count out loud and I'm going to play it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 great job. So if you did that, you did an excellent job. If you made a mistake, that's okay. This is the process of learning how to read music. You can always go back and review it and do it over and over and over and over again. Okay? So now let's jump down to measures 7 and 12, where I took away the highlighted note. But the red note, which is a rest, is still highlighted. Okay? So let's do that now. Let's do measures 1 through 12. Okay? Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 great job. So if you did that, you did a great job. You did a great job even if you make a mistake, because now you are learning how to read music. Okay? It's just like reading a book. You're going to make some mistakes with the words, but eventually you're going to get the words. That's the same thing with reading music. You're going to make mistakes. Even the professionals make mistakes, but the more you do it, the better you become. Okay? So now let's jump down to 13 through 21, where I took away everything. There's nothing there to let you know what's a note and what's a rest. Okay? But one thing to remember, a rest is a squiggly line. So if you see that squiggly line, you know you don't play on that because that's a rest. And a rest get 1 count. So we'll count it 1 and. Okay? Once again, everything is written out on the music for you. Okay? So let's try it again. Okay? Let's try with our hands. 13 through 21. That's all the way through the music. And here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. All right, great job. If you did that down there without any help with highlighted notes or rest, you did a fantastic job. You're on your way to be one of the greatest readers. Okay? So now we're going to go all the way back up to the top. We're going to use our kibasas that we learned how to make. And now we're going to use the kibasas to play on the notes. But remember, whenever there's a rest, we don't play. It's a silent count. Okay? Don't play on the rest. It's a silent count. Okay? So let's try to play, just for the sake of it, let's play 1 through 12. Okay? Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. And if you did that, you are great. That's an excellent job. Excellent, excellent. Okay? So just remember, you can use your kiboshes that we made. That sounds great. Okay? So now I'm going to switch over. I'm going to use my shaker this time. Okay? We made our shakers. Okay, so now let's play the whole thing all the way through. Okay? Using our shaker. Okay? Here we go. You ready? Let me count it out for you. 1, 2, ready, play. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And great job. We didn't play it all the way through, but we played all the way up to 12. Okay? So keep working on this. So thank you for tuning in. If you got any questions, you can email me and I'll be more than happy to walk you through it. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner, and thank you to all the other classroom teachers today. They will all be back next Wednesday with lessons again targeted for our 3rd and 4th grade students. Tune in tomorrow, Thursday, for lessons for grades 5 and 6. Thank you all for joining us today. Have a great day, and remember, continue learning throughout the day.
Kindergarten is great at Kansas City Public Schools.
I know they have really good teachers. I know this is a great school.
They teach them stuff that I thought my kids would never be able to know at the age of 5.
Since deciding to send our kiddos to a neighborhood school, we've become even more of a part of our community.
Now is the time to enroll your future kindergartner for the new school year. Visit enrollkc.org today.